Okay, so hi guys, my name is Esther Levy, and I'm here with Sonia, and we're here to share some of our journey, and we're here to explore the concept of role models in general. Um, in our process as business owners and entrepreneurs, and as women and moms, we were on the hunt. I know personally for myself, I've been on the hunt for a role model that has all the tools and is equipped for life as a mother, as a wife, as a partner, as a business owner, as a woman. And so in that journey, we were looking for the right team, the right people. So we decided that we're gonna just start this podcast and see if we can offer you guys some tools along the way and see if you guys want to join us in this journey. So that's where we're at.
Esther and I are both women, as you probably already know by hearing our voices. We are both entrepreneurs. We both have our own businesses, solo founders of our own businesses. Esther makes beautiful skincare, of which I was able to avail of some of her products after we met in person, and I'm obsessed with your soap and your deodorant. It's like my favorite thing ever. You also do yoga with women, right?
Yeah. So I'm a certified yoga and meditation teacher. So we focus more on just balancing out the nervous system. Yeah. And I always say it's like a muscle that we have to bring awareness to. And if it's not strong enough, us as women, we really struggle in that area.
Yes.
Because so much of the way we work is from the inside out. It's really important to acknowledge that we are different, and it is okay to be different. We have strengths, but the thing is the things that work for men don't necessarily work for women. First of all, as women, we have cycles. So at different times in our cycles, we are in different places. If you think of it also from a physical sense, like men kind of build upper body strength as they hit puberty. Women kind of build other things. And it's a part of, we are like emotional beings. We are more intuitive. A lot of how we like to work is through flow. When men need a plan and they stick to a plan, for us, we kind of work from a space of intuition and flow. And it's really important because if we're not connected or wired that way and we're working in a man's world, it's like we kind of lose this superpower. And it's almost like, and then we neglect the nervous system. And I think for women, when we do neglect the nervous system, it affects our mental and emotional.
You know, that reminded me of your newsletter. I read the one you sent. Was it today? The one
I sent one
digest. Today. But I really liked how you talked a lot about asking for what you need.
Yeah.
And if you don't know how to ask for what you need, how can people help you? And that's such a common problem, I think, for women in particular. And kind of comes back to the idea of, role models and why we've sort of found each other in the mastermind program we were in.
I can only share from my own experiences. I can't share from any other space. But the thing is, if you think about it, as women, because we're so intuitive and we're wired to be intuitive, we're always thinking about other people's needs. Now, depending on you as a person, but I think for women, this is more common than men. And because we do that, when we go out into the world, we automatically expect other people to be doing the exact same thing. That wouldn't come from anywhere but the place where it would feel normal and natural to us. So that's kind of the science of it. We have to be clear with what we need and what we want and ask for it, because I always say that it's a sign of maturity when you're able to communicate your needs.
I think, again, speaking from my own personal experience, and I know we share some common ground here too, as women and as mothers, we don't have a lot of time or space sometimes to think about what it is we want and need, and then even if we know what it is, to execute on it. So I think one of the goals that getting together and making this podcast, what I have personally, is that how do we on our own journeys learn how to as we go through life and grow through life, understand what it is we really want for that next phase, and then articulate it. For a lot of us as females, we want to come across as more authentically feminine. Like, what does the feminine power look like? Because power exists in all realms, not just the masculine realm.
For me, the definition was, or is, feeling fully connected. Because when we think of the concept of even electricity and we say the power is on, the power is on. It doesn't mean you're conquering anybody or holding anyone at gunpoint. You're what you're doing is there's a sense of connection that's uninterrupted. And that's what real power is. So I think when we kind of look for our power, it's finding this space where we constantly have access to that channeling. When we thinking of other people's experiences or what they need, or putting other people before us, before our own needs, that sometimes that in itself can cut the power. Sometimes we'll have to go into lower frequencies where where maybe somebody can't handle the full extent of who we are. And it's just like, it's like that brownout.
Mm-hmm. Where, such a good analogy. You
know what I mean? Like it's one of those things where it's just like, and for so many of us as women, we're living in that space.
Yes.
And we're not able to be fully in our full light. It's about you being able to contain your energy and to feel empowered. So I always say it's a great question to ask yourself, because everybody has a different definition. And everybody's definition might be different depending on your lifestyle, your experiences, and where you feel you're going. But the beauty is when you start to ask those questions, that's when you will gain a little bit more clarity into your journey as for what you're looking for.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, Esther. And just to come back to, I guess what we were doing.
We're going around. Yeah.
No, this is perfect. With introductions.
Yeah. Please go ahead.
I spent 10 years in a very male-dominated tech industry as a software engineer, and the energy that I was putting into my career started to feel more and more inauthentic to the kind of energy that I wanted to really
develop.
To develop and the way I guess I wanted to, like, all of this energy that we come into the world with and all of the potentiality for the electricity that we can turn on.
Yeah.
And a lot of women were not even raised to know what it is we want. So a lot of us go into our marriages, our, motherhood, our careers without truly knowing our North Star, without truly knowing, what lights us up. We know that certain things light us up. Where in there do we find time to really assess who we are? And I think a lot of times it comes where time will determine that we can no longer burn that candle in that same way. And that doesn't, for me, it was a burnout. I hit burnout pretty hard, and I had to do a lot of work on what was even going on first, because I had gotten so callous to the kind of female energy that I had put down so long ago that I didn't really I didn't have an understanding that I needed to even give myself space. I jumped into this river, into this flow of churning out code, thinking like a guy, thinking systematically, and it helped my brain to be more that way. But I was so out of touch from my female power, from my female energy. And honestly, there wasn't a lot of space for it in that domain. So I think sometimes we hit a crisis, and I know that crisis is often seen as a bad thing, but the Greek root word actually means crossroads. So if we're hitting crisis, that means time to get new information, right? That's time to find out how to really turn the power on.
The thing is, I feel like it's a new age of discovering how us as women can adjust or pivot to make it more friendly to the female lifestyle, where we can have everything we want and need.
It's like the feeling. and we do men need it too. I like what we bring as women, they need to. Just like,
right.
So I think we are in a new age, Esther. We need to get back in touch with our feelings and like our sensitivity to one another.
Yeah.
Especially since the pandemic.
If you think about it, women always lived in like these support systems. I think men also did, but we're focusing more on the female aspect of it. And I think like, if you think of something as simple as a task of doing laundry, there's a rhythm to it as well, in the sense that back in the day, there was like this big body of water and all these women would come together with their clothing to wash. And they would wash in the sense of there was a physical kind of rhythm of whatever the circular motion was of that flow, but they also got to come together, feel each other's supportive energy, and communicate. And those are like such big parts of the female dynamic. In Jewish culture, they say that like 90% of speech was given to women. So like that's like so the thing is that yes, women need to talk. So I find that community is a huge component, but that support is key.
Yeah, absolutely. You just have to be open to it first, right? Like, because we can't always dictate how we want to receive help.
So I'm going to use this laundry thing as an analogy, because I think that it's a distant kind of experience, but it's relatable. So there's a few things. I think as women, sometimes we'll have a conversation with each other. We'll be like, oh my gosh, I needed that so badly. Like we won't even realize how badly we needed the company or the support. And a lot of that comes from not being in our bodies. So back in the day, when you were standing around this body of water, bending over and moving your body, that was literally what was happening. You were able to also release any tension. But then also, because you were so connected with your body and your core, you were able to also be much more in touch with your needs. And so much of being in touch with your needs is being in your body. You can't know what you need unless you're in your body.
Honestly, I mean, I guess like just to bring it back to the modern day woman how do we get back in our body? You touched on it, is working out, exercising is one thing, but as a exerciser myself, I will say that exercise just to make your body look a certain way is not the same thing as connecting back with your body, right?
Just start with 15 minutes and see what in your day can you add to be more of a holistic approach. And when you say holistic, it's whole. There is this wholeness about it where every single part of it is beneficial. And I think that's where like running on a treadmill or, lifting kettlebells can get really annoying. What's actually missing is the complete holistic approach. Going back to what you were saying about small businesses, I own a skincare company for 10 years. And when I was doing my meditation training, my meditation teacher, he saw that I wasn't so content at some point. It was around COVID time when I was talking to him, and he said, I see you completely zen in your work. That's where I see you completely zen. And it was COVID. So the sales kind of slowed down. The world was changing, and I didn't have the ability to do what I usually do, which is, create these formulas from scratch, which is so phenomenal. So on a day-to-day basis, if you want to do something practical, it's, making yourself a meal from beginning to end. There's something really holistic and wholesome about doing something from beginning to end with focus. So I always say, like, don't do it while you're on the phone. Don't do it while you're listening to a podcast. Really try to incorporate all your senses. If we're able to kind of embody all our senses when we are experiencing something or doing something, that's where the power turns on.
That's interesting, Esther. I think, wow, yeah. So I give that a minute. Yeah, that's where you turn the power on. As a chronic audiobook listener, while doing just about anything, I can totally testify to not being able to tell you what I was doing, but telling you the contents of the audiobook I was listening to, which is not always very good, especially when you are making food, which is to nourish your body or your family's body. And I think I think it's like even if you have a lot going on with your business or your work, if you could do that once a week or every lunch or every breakfast, just to start to carve out time where you literally, if you have a garden or if you have a market, you go get fresh greens and you like listen to the sound of chopping the greens on the cutting board and sharpen your knife and chop the tomatoes. Like that is such a sensory experience. And food is energy. So of course that's how we turn the freaking power on, Esther. Yes. That's how let's turn the power on.
A great question to ask yourself also, it's like when you're listening to podcasts, is asking yourself, does this allow me to be more in my body or does it take me out of my body? And if you like, sometimes like music could bring you into your body. So it's just asking yourself, what is a supportive component that gets me into my body?
Yeah. And if you're a chronic like problem solver like me, like my husband just said this to me today. He was like, maybe you don't need any more books just for a moment about how to deconstruct your brain and put it back together again.
I feel you. I feel you. We're all totally on that path. Like I'm always buying the next book. I like to read. So for me, it's like I'm always buying another book with, Yeah. But another thing also to your point, what you were saying about like the garden or listening to the, the sound of chopping vegetables, that is like building a muscle in itself. Like you're not going to be able to do more than a few minutes of that a day if you haven't been doing that for a while. It'll either feel boring or you won't have enough muscle to self-regulate yourself in that space. And that's why I say, like, tell yourself, I'm doing it for 15 minutes. And I just had a woman send me a message. She said, can you talk about love and feeling loved? And I was like, one thing, the only way you could feel loved and feel love and feel that full sense of satisfaction is if you're fully connected. If you're not connected, it ain't coming from nowhere.
Yeah. It's all going to be like, image. Like you're going to work on the image, but you're not going to put the power on. You're not going to plug in. Yeah. This is a topic for a whole episode, but one of the struggles I think we have as women is that we are sensual.
Yeah.
Men are visual. We are conditioned for thousands of years, Esther, to be the object of this visual gaze that is the male gaze. And so somewhere in there, we need to find our way back to the sensual body that we are as women, because when we are showing up for men as only the image, we aren't giving them the full sensual experience.
Exactly.
And just to come really deep into the whole like male-female dynamic, the sexuality between any of us, but just speaking to the dynamic between men and women is for most men in that partnership, that's where they can be their whole selves. And if we're not showing up in our whole self, checked in, power on, sensual body, comfortable as women, we aren't allowing that full experience for ourselves or for our partners. So I think there's just so many reasons from the ground all the way up that we need to come back into our bodies. Do you know Dr. LaPera? She wrote a beautiful book, How to Be the Love You Seek.
No, I haven't heard it.
So this is reminding me of a meditation she does, and it's maybe a great one to leave our listeners with. If you do take that 15 minutes to chop some vegetables and prepare some fresh food for yourself and your family, just this simple meditation is really just as you're doing something like this, something that's grounding in your body, or you're just sitting in your chair. Start with each of your senses. So start with your eyes and try and see more broadly than what you see in your little narrow view, right? And just, looking up more, looking down more, trying to see more of what's below, more of what's above, more of what's to each side. And then closing your eyes, try to do the same with your ears, which is maybe a little bit odd at first, but just try and hear, maybe if you live in between floors in your apartment building, or if you live in a house, see if you can hear upstairs and downstairs and outside and inside, and do this with all of your body, and you work through your whole body, and it's like a super sensory extending meditation. I haven't gotten farther out yet, but I believe it makes total sense to me that that's how you can start to increase the circumference of what you can feel and experience in your sensory body.
Definitely. A great question to add to that also is like asking yourself what's standing in your way. And a lot of it is the mental noise. So to your point, when you start to kind of tap into your senses and see like, what do you hear? How, like, can you hear the birds? Can you go past the windows? Can you go, past the clouds? And what ends up happening is that you'll start to notice that there's very little that stands in your way. And usually it's just like the clouds. It's just these emotional clouds. We're always looking to problem solve, but we don't realize that the satisfaction doesn't necessarily come from finding the solution, because once we find a solution, we always look for the next problem. So it's about feeling grounded and whole. And usually that will feel unproductive. Like this kind of work, whenever I do like nervous system work, people will say this doesn't feel productive, just like they'll want a high powered workout rather than some yin, right? Where we're doing some restorative. They're like, this is not productive. And unfortunately, when we come from a place where we're overstimulated, we're addicted to the stimulation, thinking that it's synthetic. It's not real even. And so then we're creating this whole synthetic universe where we're creating stimulation that doesn't get us anywhere, just to artificially manipulate this creative space or project it on an ego. And then we come back to zero, and we're like, we get to the end of our cycles and we're like, the world is ending.
We're empty inside.
Exactly. And it's just like, why? So always ask yourself, like, what stands in your way, and start even with your sensations. Don't even, the first thing we'll have, people will always be like a person. They'll tell me a person, and I'll be like, stop telling me about the people in your life. Nobody's stopping you from anything. We all have difficulties. You're not special.
Yeah.
Your problems aren't special. You're human.
And that's actually reassuring. It means you're not alone.
Yes. And so the thing is when you ask yourself what's standing in your way, to your point before, was peel back those layers and just see, like, if you're able to kind of deepen your relationship with your sensations. And that in itself will give you a stronger space in your intuition. You'll be much, much stronger, and you're going to be able to make much clearer decisions, because if you are kind of widening your perception with what you see, you're not just seeing what's in the frame. You're going to be able to see what's outside the frame. My meditation teacher described it almost like a TV or movie set. He says what's actually going on is not on the screen.
Yeah.
And when we are in a place where there's a lot of cortisol and we're like in that go, 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 we're only seeing what's in the frame and what everyone is putting in front of us. But to make good decisions as business owners and as mothers and as women, to be able to make that full decision, we need the full perspective, the full scope. So take that time to see what's standing in the way, and really deepen the experience. So yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Beautifully said, Esther. And I think what's standing in the way is what's inside. We know, and we're not alone. This is another thing, and why we're doing this podcast, because it's really easy to feel like you're isolated when you're feeling these kinds of things. And it's moment by moment, we have the ability, I think, to change that perspective out of there's all of these things in my way, here's my list, to I'm getting up, I'm doing the laundry, and then I'll do something else. While I'm doing the laundry, I will be present. And I will smell the laundry detergent, and I will feel the wet clothes in my hand as I put them in the dryer. And then when I fold them later, I'll feel the warmth in my hand as I fold them. And if I have a family with love, I will fold those clothes for them. Like that is a generous gift that can bring us back into our body and also overflow our own cup so that we can give that love out back to the people in our lives.
And when we start with simple tasks, what that does is that it kind of projects forward, because the way we do one thing is the way we do everything. And for so many people, we all have this undertone of, I hate my job. I hate. And I even realized in my 10 years of doing this job, like there was a place where I was like, I hate my job. And it was like, I don't hate my job. It's just that, like, I was like, did I? Like, I created this thing. Like, why would I
Why
hate
did I
it?
do that?
Yeah. Why would I hate it? And sitting with myself, I just realized that I created an unnecessary pressure to be able to conform a certain way. And like, even if it was benchmarks of how much I needed to make or what needed to happen or the way the world needed to perceive me. And if I peeled it all away and I was like, but I really do find Zen in what I do. So it's coming back to that. Like when I'm having a conversation, the whole world stops. And I think that's the beauty of like emotional intimacy, especially as women. When you're able to really zero in and focus on being almost intimate with the experience, every experience on its own, that's when the whole world will stop and watch what you're doing. We're talking about really being one with whatever it is that you're doing, uninterrupted. And I feel like that's where the success is, but the world is trying to distract us. And as soon as we tap back into that, we're unstoppable.
Oh, hell yeah. Here, sister.
It's like, if you're able to connect with now and you're able to be present here, that is finite. Like that is where it begins.
And just for to put a pin in a future conversation around just exactly this and tie it into tech, the idea of interacting with AI as we both do in our businesses, and you can leverage these tools to become not hyper productive, but to scale what it is you want to do. And the art of manipulating these tools effectively really does come down to knowing what you want and knowing how to ask for what you want. Because if you're all over the place with AI, you're getting all over the place results too. So the tech that we have built resembles how we are, but we can work with it in a more advanced way than this kind of jumble that we exist in.
Definitely.
Which was
And, as we move through this podcast, we're going to bring up a lot of topics. So feel free to, pop some like topics underneath if you have any questions. But we will also be revealing some really cool bits of tech that we've been playing with and some stuff that have helped us with efficiency in our life, in organizing our life and organizing our schedule, and then optimization for, in the software space too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, because we're not talking about not being optimized. In fact, like we're big proponents of that. Also, but how do you navigate being an optimizer and being a grounded, centered human being that knows why you're doing it in the first place?
I think that's really the focus. It's like knowing where you want to go. And the thing is every other person is like, oh, it's easy. You can open a website in 20 minutes. Like, that's great. Anyone can do anything at this point. The question is, why are you doing it? And what's standing in your way? So it's knowing what you really want. And I think that's the component of, and being brave enough, I think it's being brave enough to follow yourself in there with confidence, because for so many of us, we kind of secretly fear our deepest desires, and then everything's built with so much resistance. So it's like just eliminating some of the BS and surrendering completely to that, to the.
And well, I mean, one of the things is I've heard, I feel like this is my personal experience anyway. The fear is often associated with the identity that's changing.
Yeah.
When we're walking out of the life of, for me, corporate software engineer, team lead, I was a bit of a badass. I felt like a badass. I'm making great money. I had this whole identity built up around like female coder. I was like, yeah, I'm like girl with the dragon tattoo, except without quite the terrible backstory. But with the cool ninja kind of persona, and like walking away from that, it was like, oh my God, like my husband and I were talking about this just yesterday. Like I still am reassembling a new identity as an entrepreneur and startup founder. And it's, that is now my future. That is now my identity. But it's like, it's still in all these pieces. And so many of these steps of disassembling the old identity, I threw up major resistance because like my ego liked that identity. Totally. It did not want to put that down. So the fear a lot of times, I think when you're taking big leaps and chances on yourself, is to do with the death of one identity and the mystery of the birth of a new one.
But I think it's paving that the real one or the new one comes from within.
Yes.
It's very easy to follow somebody else's lead.
And I mean, honestly, all of us, unless we truly thought about what we want to do, how we want to live this life, and why we are doing what we're doing, no matter what we're doing, if we haven't answered or sat with those questions, I think we're going to find ourselves at some point in our careers at a crisis, at a crossroads. Yeah. And that's where you get to really meet yourself.
Yeah.
You're looking.
No, for sure. 100%.
That's when you get to turn the power on. No more brownouts.
Yeah, no, boom. That's it. Yeah. And it's like, I think sometimes it's, when life backs you into a corner and you have nothing to lose. So the thing is knowing that you have that permission from day one. You don't have to have nothing to lose to go after your dream.
For those of you 80s kids, nobody puts baby in a corner.
Yes. That's true. Yes.
Oh, Esther, this has been awesome.
It has been. Thank you, Sonia. This was really amazing. And I look forward to doing this again.